Hi, I'm Terri Murphy, Senior Editor for Realty Times, Women in Business, Women in Real Estate, and In the Men's Room with Murph. And today we have a significant force in technology in our men's room. His name is Anthony Esper. He is the founder of Occupi, and that is a remarkable real estate technology that's designed to help us with self-showings technology inside your own listing and brokerage firm. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Well, we are delighted to have you. You know, the technology industry transitions while you inhale. You hail from New York, by the way, which is one of our faves. You were the founder, which has been just about 4 years old, going on 4 years old. And I think the most delightful thing about this startup, because we have lots of startups, is the interesting and personal story for how it got started. And it's very relevant to women in real estate. Could you tell us a little bit about how you came up with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So what happened with Occupy was I was dating a woman who was a real estate broker here in New York. And she would always tell me about how painful her job was. So I have a background in technology, so I would listen and think about how I could help her. She explained to me that she was always running into logistical problems when trying to conduct showings. So she would go to show an apartment in Queens and she'd get stuck in traffic, or she'd get there and the super wasn't there to let her in and her client in, or she'd get there and the person she wanted to show the apartment told her, it's too far from the subway, sorry, forget it. And she just drove, 45 minutes honking and making it through traffic to get there. So it was always a pain for her. It was always the biggest pain in her life. And hey, every time we'd hang out, she'd always complain. So I thought to myself, okay, well, how do we fix this? This seems like
I want you to pause right there. So ladies, did you hear him say he listened? I mean, I think that's remarkable, number one. And he took a problem. And I mean, how many of us have somebody that has a solution like what's about to come up? So I just wanted to pause there to say, thank you so much for listening. Keep going.
Well, I'm very attentive when it comes to problems. I feel like I want to solve problems with technology engineering. And of course, I was very fond of her and wanted to help her and didn't want her to suffer. So I called up some of these lockbox companies and asked them if they had any kind of remote solutions or some more advanced technologically advanced lockboxes. And they told me that they did. They told me that they have a lockbox that puts out a code every hour. And there's a computer chip and a battery in there, and the code will change every hour. And I said to myself, well, that's perfect. Why don't we build some workflow around this and some technology around this and make the process automated and easy for people. And quite frankly, I felt like people should be able to go see the homes themselves. I felt like if I was somebody and I wanted to just go see a piece of property, it should be like any inventory. It should be like going into a grocery store and picking a box of cereal off the shelf. So I said, people should be able to go see homes by themselves. And so we said, obviously, we're going to need to know who they are. So we coupled this remote access lockbox with an identity service and then a booking engine and brought it all together. And so we coupled this overall workflow together with some different pieces of disparate technology.
Which is happening in the real estate industry as we become more seamless. And you mentioned that being a seamless technology. So I'm a realtor and I'm saying, well, wait a minute, if I'm not showing the property, am I being displaced? And the other question is, how do I know, but how do you do the identity thing? Because clearly there's some great, this is a great solution to some properties, vacant properties, commercial properties, warehouse kind of things, empty properties. How about trying to park in Chicago or LA or New York, and you have to meet the other broker and the prospect, and there's no parking. And of course, all of us have suffered with, we've decided not to look at it after you've driven 45 minutes. And
yeah, oh my God, yes.
So kudos to you. But tell us about the security part, because clearly this is not for all properties,
Right.
but it is a perfect solution for some. Tell us about the identity piece so that we can feel comfortable with that.
Sure, absolutely. So before anybody goes anywhere and gets access to any property, even before they book, they need to undertake a identity check. So it all happens relatively seamless over the phone, through the phone. And what happens is we check a license, we check a state ID, we check a resident card, or we check a passport. And we look at these items and we look for fraud within the document. And we make sure that the serial number in the document matches up to the data that's being displayed. And we have some sophisticated artificial intelligence to see front and back of the ID and see if everything is in alignment and see if it's fraudulent. We also check the ID against a number of stolen ID databases to make sure it's not a stolen ID. Once the ID, the document is proofed, then we have the consumer take a selfie, and then we match the picture on the ID with the selfie. So we use a facial recognition technology to match the picture you took with a selfie to the face on the ID, so we know it's really you. It's just very similar to if you walked into a club or someplace or an airport and they wanted to check. They look at the ID, they make sure it's not fake, and then they look at you and they make sure that you're the person on the ID and then come through. That's essentially what it is.
Don't you love it though? They go, "What's your name?" And you're like, it's like right there. Yeah, but this is great because the facial rec is really an important element to this, I would say. And now tell me, is there a timer on this so that they just, I mean, obviously we have people that kind of camp out some places. Is there a timer on the showing at all?
Yeah, it's within the hour. So everything is a time-based sensitive code. So if I book today at 3 o'clock, I will go to the property at 3 o'clock. And at that time, I'll get a text message to verify my arrival. And once I've verified that I actually got there, then I will receive an access code. That access code is only good for the hour. Once I enter into the apartment or home or wherever I am, at the time when the tour is going to end, I'll receive a text message to make sure that I left. I put back the keys, I turned off the lights, I locked the door, and used the same code I got to enter the lockbox to put back the key. And then that's it. And it's a self-service type of a workflow where we use a feedback system and text-based loop to make sure that people actually return the key, turned off the lights, locked the door, and took off.
And how does the realtor get alerted to this? So that there's somebody actually looking at the property?
Throughout the whole transaction. So depending on how the consumer comes to take the self tour, if they're the client, if you're the client agent, you're representing them as the buyer, you'll get a notification that your client is going to see XYZ property at X time, X date, X time. So you can confer with them and work with them. It's their first time going. Maybe you go with them. If they want to go back a second, third time, maybe you need to. Exactly. It's all about how you want to work this into your workflows. If you're the listing agent, obviously you and your seller are going to, it's up to the seller, but the listing agent will receive the notification of any leads that are coming. And that they'll know that this person had their ID verified. So the lead info is passed to multiple parties during the time of transaction and throughout the transaction.
Terrific. So if I was watching this, I'd be like, whoa, I don't know that I want to, I mean, I should be at all showings, but let's talk about some of the solutions that this fulfills. Obviously, there's going to be challenges. Not every property is going to be well suited for this. Clearly, if there's dogs or, if it's occupied and that kind of thing, whole different thing. But so from a safety standpoint, vacant property, easy to show without you. Don't have to worry about that. Parking problems. Let's talk about what you had in mind when you first had the vision for Occupy.
Yeah, it's relatively consumer focused. because obviously it's what consumers want. There was a recent survey by Yardi, 8 out of 10 consumers want to use this, and it's for obvious reasons. I want to go see the place when I want to go see it. I want to manage my own schedule. If I don't want to go see it at 3 o'clock, I don't want to feel like I'm bothering somebody if I instead want to go to the gym and I want to instead go at 5 o'clock. So it really puts the power of being able to schedule when you want into the consumer's hands and gives them a fast and expedient autonomous way to go and see the property.
Autonomous. So they're not going with a buyer agent. They're just kind of going on their own. Possible.
Yes, more or less, unless, obviously if we have a situation, there's a setup to where the client agent is getting notified when their client is going to see a property, then they can go and meet them if they want, or they can just consult them and help them remotely. For the listing agent side, we're seeing so much of this wonderful marketing technology and amazing stuff coming out in 3D tours, people, just excellent high definition photographs, and, people are doing an excellent job at marketing the properties. That's why people are buying houses sight unseen. They're just going for it. And that's because it was obviously a crazy market, but, still these tools empower people to get really enticed by the property. If I see a realtor and they're doing a narrated walkthrough of a property and they're talking about the property, explaining the property, I'm half sold at that point if I really like what I see. And now the next step is I just want to go there and check it out for myself and bring my wife or bring whoever and just go and see it.
Well, it also serves the purpose for apartments. If you're in the rental business or property management.
Sure.
Especially if they're empty, because that can be daunting and you have to get past the super. So what happens if the superintendent isn't there to let you in? Tell us about it. It's just like a lockbox that sits outside where it's accessible.
Yeah. So so we leverage a number of different lock boxes. These lock boxes are electronic. They're code-based. Here's one by Master Lock. Here's another one by CodeBox. But they run on batteries. They don't require internet. They're wonderful devices. We're lockbox agnostic, and so basically you just plug in the serial number of the lockbox, and that's it. And you just set the visitor schedule when you want people to actually come see the property, and then you're relatively done.
There you go. So tell us a little bit about the process. If I'm watching this and I think this is a perfect idea because I work in Thane, Wyoming, the property is 60 minutes away, it's vacant. What would be my process to avail myself of an Occupi service?
Sure. So we're working through MLSs. We're working through large brokerages. We really feel as though that is where this is going to be best served. And so that's our current model. So I would encourage anyone who is interested in leveraging this technology to contact their MLS and tell them about us, and we'll be sure to get in touch with us. And
so the MLS, it would be one of the ways to pay for it would be through MLS fees and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it only makes sense because all the data is there. If some of the larger brokerages, they do have some high traffic sites. And they want to do more deals in-house so that they may actually pick this up themselves. But for those brokers that, are working within the community and within their MLS, and they're very fond of their regional association and want to really make this work for the whole community, then it would be through the MLS, that the MLS would pick this up and then offer this out. And then would attach it along the IDX feed, actually, so that if you did have an IDX hosted website, you could have self-showings for consumers available right there on your feed.
So it's so brilliant. It reminds me of the early days of Uber, when we were literally the disintermediation with taxis. And it was unconscionable that you would get in a car with someone you didn't know,
right,
get a taxi service. And yet now, instead of looking at it as a threat, because it clearly is not appropriate for every property,
Right.
but it would be such a phenomenal solution because the consumer does want to be in control. And showing properties and coordinating, I mean, with all the great platforms for making appointments, may be outdated. And so I think your timing is spectacular. If I were hoping to be able to use this, is there case studies? Have you worked already with big companies where they're using this? Have you had some feedback you'd like to share?
Sure. I mean, we were working with some larger brokerages in New York. That's where we launched this. That's where our test market was. We actually created our own platform at that time called Occupy NYC. We had some of these larger New York City brokerages leveraging it there. We have some testimonials I'll pass on to you after the call, and hopefully you can share with your audience. But they were all very fond of it, loved it. I mean, especially they were using this in the rental market, and they're just, cutting down time. They would post their listings up to the major listing services, and then they would get leads from them, and then they would just simply send them a link for the persons to go see the place by themselves, and the person would just click the link, and then they would go on their own, and it saves them time, saves the broker time, saves the agent time, and allows them to show properties without having to be there.
That's a remarkable opportunity. When we think about the safety, the time, the serving the consumer demand for 24/7, basically, but you said you can block it. It sounds to me like this could be a very successful solution to the real estate industry. Tell us, for more information, where should we contact you?
Absolutely. So we're at www.getoccupy, that's occupy with an I, not a Y.com, getoccupy.com. Right there is our site. You can read more about us, see more about us, and there's a contact form there to reach out to us. I'm also available at A. Esper. It's my first name, Anthony, last name, Esper, E-S-P-E-R, at Occupi, OCCUPI.us.
Phenomenal. Listen, thank you so much for joining us. This is just another smart innovation for the real estate industry to make us so relevant and so connected to the client, the end user, as well as each other. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope you'll join us for another segment, because I know you'll come up with something even better probably by tomorrow. Thanks so much for all you do for Women's Wisdom Network, Realty Times, and Women in Business. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.